All right, welcome to Mr. K is Wrong, where I debunk the posts that Mr. K makes online. Mr. K is somebody that I used to know in my high school days, and he posts a bunch of right wing bullcrap on his Facebook page. So, in this episode, I'm going to be looking at a meme that he shared, which was also shared by Megyn Kelly, and it says, quote, vote Republican. They may not be perfect, but the other side is insane. Oh, spooky. So we're gonna break that down. What exactly makes the right wingers less insane? Well, it turns out nothing. They are more insane because if we're being honest, a lot of people on the other side, as they call it, see the Republican Party as completely off the rails because they are. And it's not just because of policy disagreements, although those are definitely a big part of it, but we're also talking about behavior that would have been laughed out of the room 20 years ago. And here's why the conspiracy theory machine has taken over the party. Today's GOP isn't just flirting with fringe ideas, it's embracing them, French kissing them, making it to third, maybe even fourth base with them. So, of course, one of the major conspiracy theories that generated a lot of headlines and frankly should have potentially discredited the Republican Party overall was this thing called Pizzagate. That was promoted by figures like Michael Flynn and Alex Jones, a hero in many far right circles. The baseless idea is that top Democrats supposedly ran a child sex ring from a DC pizza parlor, and the conspiracy theory led to an armed man shooting up a he was firing a gun in a pizza restaurant. He was there ready to rescue children that didn't even exist. And in fact, if I recall correctly, the right wingers who promoted this conspiracy theory, this Pizzagate nonsense, they said it was being run out. The sex trafficking ring was being run out of the pizza restaurant's basement, but the place that this imbecile stormed did not even have a basement, from what I understand. So some Republicans didn't condemn this conspiracy theory, they amplified it. And okay, what's another one? Well, number 2 on this list, how about the Jewish space lasers? Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, still a sitting member of Congress because, we're living in a dystopian right wing hellscape, but she once pushed a conspiracy theory that George Soros funded space lasers or Jewish space lasers caused California wildfires. And instead of being totally ostracized for it and losing her position as a member of Congress, she got committee assignments back. And you say the left is insane? Well, one party's talking about green energy, the other thinks satellites are starting forest fires on purpose, instead of simply acknowledging that climate change is making forest fires and other natural disasters worse. You know, the crazy talk has escalated, and of course the idea is that you can't have natural disasters occurring naturally because that makes the the economy look bad, the capitalist system. You have to make it a conspiracy theory that these things are escalating, that we're seeing more forest fires, floods, tornadoes, you name it. All these different weather patterns are getting worse. So it's easier for some people to believe it is a plot by demonic Democrats or something like that. And that leads us to conspiracy number 3, or conspiracy theory number 3, which is related to the space lasers one. It's about weather control. So right wing pundits like Tucker Carlson, who once had a guest on his podcast who claimed that the Holocaust happened simply because, Nazi Germany was resource strapped and therefore Jewish people died in the concentration camps. He had a Holocaust denier on his show. But anyway, Tucker Carlson and others have also pushed a claim that the government and or Democrats are manipulating weather patterns through HAARP and other tech. Some even link it to Biden weaponizing storms for political gain. And this isn't fringe Reddit stuff, it's actually Fox News primetime and CPAC panels promoting these ideas. And, quite recently, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is one of the superstars promoting these types of claims, she claimed that these floods were being caused by Democrats or something along those lines. So, all right, what about number 4? What's number 4 on the list? Well, the Great Replacement theory. It's a racist theory claiming Democrats are trying to replace white voters with immigrants, and it's been echoed by Elise Stefanik, Laura Ingraham, and of course Tucker Carlson. It inspired actual mass shooters. The Buffalo shooter cited it in his manifesto, for example. And one of the ironies here is that actually plenty of immigrants are actually conservative leaning, believe it or not. In fact, even to this day, a sizable chunk of them are conservative leaning. But, say what you want about them, but they are being betrayed by the Republican Party because they're weaponizing the removal of immigrants. And we'll see how extreme that gets because they are increasingly cruel in their methods and their desires when it comes to bashing immigrants. But of course, like I just said, a lot of these people are actually at least relatively conservative leaning. So we'll see how long that lasts, as long as they're weaponizing. The Republicans are weaponizing things like denaturalization and deportations and these concentration camps like Alligator Auschwitz, or as they like to call it, Alligator Alcatraz. And they're no longer really having this law and order angle about it, because they're basically admitting that their intention is just to inflict cruelty and cruel and unusual punishment, because of course one of the key points about this alligator place in Florida is that they like the idea, they're gleeful about it, if people try to escape from the hazardous conditions inside of the prison environment, because then they might be eaten by alligators, or maybe an exotic snake might choke them to death or something like that. And these right wingers, they love that idea. Maybe it makes their little pee-pees stand up or something like that, because these are sadistic freaks. That they get excited at the idea of these detainees facing harsh treatment. It's almost like they really are concentration camps, and like they are trying to make life a living hell, a hell on earth. And it's all just very dark, very dystopian. And I'm supposed to look at the scenario and think that these right wingers aren't crazy, the GOP isn't crazy at all. Well, I'm sorry, but they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. All right, so number 5 on the list, election denial as core doctrine. So by this point, over 60% of Republicans still believe the 2020 election was stolen, despite zero credible evidence. And Trump pushed this lie relentlessly, so did members of Congress, Fox News hosts, before settling for $787 million with Dominion voting systems, and, a whole bunch of right-wing influencers online. So this lie led to a violent insurrection, of course, and there were also attempts to overthrow the 2020 election before it could be finally solidified. And that included, in the state of Michigan, these fake electors, these false electors, actually ended up, from what I recall, sleeping overnight in the official building, the state government's house, and they were. It was a weird thing where they were trying to replace the official electors, and it was all pretty wild and crazy, and of course all of the or at least the vast majority of the insurrectionists were pardoned, or they had their sentences commuted, which is almost the same thing. And it really shows you how they actually feel about law and order. They only care about law and order when it comes to political campaigns, and also when it benefits them. So, okay, who's insane again? The left isn't perfect, but insane, well, quite often not. So let's stack it up. Let's look at a lot of the crazy things that Republicans have believed. Like I said, when it comes to elections, they claimed massive fraud with no proof, which undermines democracy itself. And of course, it's not only anti democratic, but it also sort of undermines faith in our communities as well. I think that's sort of an angle that's being a little bit under examined here with this stuff, because if 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 all of our elections are fake, then what does that say about the people in your own community? It kind of has some negative implications if it's constantly being stated that, oh, you know everybody who votes Democrat is committing fraud or something like that. It really undermines the faith that anybody out there is actually following the law and has good intent. If at any time a Democrat wins an election, it must be fraud, you know? And when it comes to climate, they've said that wildfires were caused by these Jewish space lasers or George Soros lasers. Well, it's definitely sort of a racist and definitely delusional and totally baseless claim. But that didn't stop MTG from making it. And when it comes to science, they also spread COVID denial, anti vax hysteria, and phony treatments and cures, which cost lives and extended the pandemic. And of course, RFK Jr. is undermining public health. We've seen, not only did he swim in sewage with his grandchildren, but he's undermined the likelihood of vaccines being readily available in the future, and he's made it more likely that we'll have future pandemics. And when it comes to the media, they've called everything faked, or everything fake except for InfoWars, which sort of creates an alternate reality. And when it comes to criminal justice, they're still defending Trump after 34 felony convictions, which shows that they prioritize loyalty over law. And when it comes to foreign policy, some GOP members echo Russian propaganda. So it's likely that possibly even Reagan would be stunned by the direction they're going. And it's a lot of projection going on, too. The meme says the other side is insane, but what's more insane? Believing in things like universal health care, giving children school lunches, or believing the Clintons are running a satanic pedophile ring out of a pizza place. What is actually more insane? The idea that you know the wealthy should pay their fair share in taxes, or insisting that lasers are a Jewish globalist weapon that's starting forest fires from outer space. So let's be clear, this isn't about conservative values. It's not about fiscal restraint, limited government, or individual liberty. Those are serious political positions that have some merit. But the modern GOP has swapped ideas for conspiracies, policies for paranoia, and dialogue for delusion. So if you want to vote Republican because of taxes, gun rights, or abortion, fine, you can do that. I would oppose you in many ways on that, but those are much more debatable as issues, actually. And some people would say they're not debatable, but they are more debatable than a lot of these loony conspiracy theories that are so common. But don't gaslight people into thinking the GOP is the sane party while giving a platform to people who think hurricanes are deep state ops and child traffickers run the DNC. Especially with what's going on with Trump and Epstein right now. They're literally shutting down Congress to prevent the Epstein files from being released in full. So Trump is actually trying to go in there and redact them so he can take his name out of them entirely. And he's having some attempts to negotiate with Ghislaine Maxwell, or Ghislaine Maxwell, as I call her, because she, she's she's been hanging around with creepy perverts, and now she's in prison because of that. And one of those creepy perverts was, of course, Donald Trump himself. So let's call it what it is: a projection, and a dangerous one. See, in contrast, I don't care if Bill Clinton goes down as somebody who was associated with Jeffrey Epstein, or even Noam Chomsky. If he was tied to Jeffrey Epstein or something, and all sorts of, if a bunch of liberals and leftists are associated with these well, really any sort of criminal conspiracy theory, or not theory, but a genuine conspiracy, you know, go ahead and look into them. Make the information public, and you can have a trial process. And due process, by the way, is a good thing. That's how you find out what a person is guilty of or innocent of. You look at the evidence, you see if the evidence is compelling, and you draw conclusions based on that. And that's something that apparently is lacking these days, because the Republican Party has shifted the narrative to the point where the very premise of due process now is considered a leftist talking point. So if you believe that all immigrants or anybody in this country should have, some due process, if you're going to accuse them of any sort of crime, well, they're gonna accuse you of being a far leftist lunatic if you believe that people should be able to face their accusers and see what charges they have, what crimes they're being accused of, and also what evidence is available. And it's a very dangerous spot we're in, because they can just make stuff up, and they often will. Look at the false claims about the Haitian immigrants in Ohio, where they said they were eating cats and dogs. Now, if you believe that was true, that they were eating cats and dogs, well, chances are you're racist right from the start. And I might as well wrap this episode up here. But if you've found that anything I said is out of order or out of line or whatever, go ahead and let me know. Maybe you could try to claim that I'm the crazy one here, but I think you'd be wrong. I think what I've said here is pretty solid, and I think it successfully condemns the GOP or the greedy old perverts.